Now, in my other two videos about the bass and guitar and playing with drums and getting those rhythmic aspects right, I thought I'd play a bit of this. This is my hybrid guitar, which has got 2 bass strings and 4 guitar strings. Now, this is where actually all of this sort of comes home to roost, as it were. The bass and the guitar have to be simple with that drum beat, but they have to be rhythmically really, really tight. But one thing, obviously, with this is that you can only do 2 things at once to a certain extent, but sometimes that's a good thing. You want some basic. So if I put drums, of course, I'm rushing that beat slightly. But the concept of it is that it makes you play more simple things. But if you think about the rhythmic placement of those things, you can make something that seemingly sounds more complicated. That's the basis of my one-man band as well. You can see that on my YouTube channel. Please do subscribe for other content. So if I was to play this a bit more accurately, so what I tried to do there was obviously to maintain the beat and try and remain in the pocket, but try and do things which had some sort of interest between the bass and the chords, but yet restraining myself onto basic things. You don't want... Because on this guitar, of course, I can only do really one thing at once. It's the bass line and then the chords. But because of that, you can get some quite interesting rhythms by playing simply one then the other. Now this sort of practice and those sort of skills really do lend themselves to solo playing. If you're an acoustic guitar player and you're doing a solo gig somewhere where you're singing, or if you're doing a gig where somebody else is singing, you've got to try and play the bass, the drums and the guitar all at the same time. Lots of people think, oh, it's just solo guitar, but actually there's much more going on than that. So if it's, I don't know, well, anything really, Stuck in the Middle with You. Don't know the words. I've only been singing it 20 years. So... because the listener can already hear that D7 chord, it's not necessary to sort of keep it going all the time. The bass line and keeping those drums, essentially I've got bass and snare. It becomes a bit more tricky if you try to do a solo on this with a bass line. But then you've got to think, what's important with this? If I'm playing a solo, what's the most important note in the bass? And the answer is it'll be the first beat. So you can, obviously there are patches where there is no bass, but if you delineate that main beat with the bass and then with the chords on the snare drum, you can then put some solo ideas there. So this is kind of bringing the bass and the guitar together in this sort of arrangement where you are forced to basically play what is important and just leave out what isn't. So there it is. There's a bit of now if you've got the tempo really slow again, let's try 40. And I was rushing that all over the place because I pressed play and didn't really listen to those beats at 40 beats per minute. I kind of thought it was faster, and that's a common thing. Playing slow, it seems as if it's just going to grind to a halt. So if I play one bar there. Really good way of just practicing, just thinking where's the bass going to go, where the chord's going to go, where's that little fill going to go. And if you can do it all at 40, it means that you're just constantly thinking about what to do. And at the very slow tempo, because there's so much gap between those hi-hat beats, it really does take a lot of control. So there we go. There's the third of 3 videos about this whole timing and dynamic thing.